Welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, December 29th, 2020. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. This country has been placed on orange alert as the La Soufrière volcano is currently experiencing a non-explosive eruption. Professor Richard Robertson, director of the UWI Seismic Research Center in Trinidad, said via Zoom at a news conference today called by Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, said that the Soufrière volcano is oozing magma inside the crater in what is called an effusive eruption, which was confirmed by a visit to the volcano by a team from the local Soufrière monitoring unit.
Now, what the guys, when they went to, they discovered is that just north of where you have the fumaric activity, where you see my mouse is circling, just north of it in just sort of in, I would say, the northwestern, sort of western, more or less western, northwestern side of the volcano, just around that ridge there, where there was a pre-existing lake. I think the lake, a temporary lake, it had gone for some time. It comes and goes all the time. There was an explosion of a black mass of rock from that area. And from what we've seen of it, it's steaming, and that's where the steaming that people have been reported is coming from. From what we see in our conclusion, there is currently what we call an effusive eruption ongoing at Soufrière, where essentially magma is coming slowly out of the earth and building a dome. Essentially, the amount of rock that you have in that came up in 79, something else like that, what we now call in a satellite dome, is actually building and growing next to it. So that's the current state of affairs.
Professor Robinson said the seismic unit is working with officials at NEMO to augment the monitoring system and have more instruments in place which will give direct advice to NEMO as to the level of activity at the volcano.
What's happening now is similar to what happened in 71, 72. But in 71, 72, we had a lake. Now we don't have a lake, but you have the same kind of mass growing on the side. As it is now, the mass is confined in the crater because of the configuration of the crater. A lot of the hazard as it presently stands are in the crater itself and on the immediate rim of the crater. So the hazard would be from the rock itself that is simply coming out, and the rock is going to be hot. So you don't want to be close to it when it's growing. It's going to be, it's basically, if you think of it like a big truck dumping a set of stone, and it's just dumping the stone, but the stone is coming from below. The stone is coming from the row and the mass is growing. That's what's happening now. And as it comes out, it's bringing with it the gases that comes out, and the steam that you see in there is the gases that come out. A lot of it is sulfur rich. Most of it, when it mixes in the atmosphere, is not going to cause much harm. But as far as this mass stays in the crater, it's really a hunting threat currently to the flanks. People on the flanks of the volcano. One of the things that we want to do is monitor the rate at which it's increasing in size, because as it expands and it increases in size, one of the potential hazards is that it can spill over into surrounding valleys. And the closest lip that it will spill over to is in the area of Laracay, and that as the lowest lip of the volcano.
Professor Robinson is strongly advising persons not to visit the volcano at this time. He said they are monitoring the situation closely as there is a possibility that the effusive eruption can move to an explosive stage, as was the case in 1971 when there was an effusive eruption followed in 1979 by an explosive eruption. Professor Robinson, however, cautioned that these eruptions can happen closer together.
Wouldn't necessarily know what is going to go explosive, but one of the things we're looking for as we look in the coming weeks and months, depending on how it goes, is to see if it's indicating that it's going to that, to give you enough warning that you could then take the action you need to. And we're hoping that within the time that you have before it goes to explosive, we will give you enough warning that you could take the action that you need to, which is essentially getting people out of harm's way, which is the main thing that you have to do. The things that we would do at Seismic is that we would deploy a team to St. Vincent as soon as possible, so on a daily basis, we could provide NEMO and the Disaster Management Agency and Prime Minister with detailed information about what we think is happening, so that as soon as it changes, because we're looking for the change, we can tell them. So I don't know when, but we think that once we're there and we could put in the instrumentation, we should be able to provide enough warning for them to do what they need to do.
Noting that SVG has tremendous capacity now to deal with a volcanic emergency. That was the case in 1979. Professor Robertson said they will be working to ensure that in the event of an explosive eruption, sufficient time is given to get people out of harm's way. The current system has the capacity to allow for 48 hours notice to be given.
Whether it is 48 hours, 24 hours, whatever time that is, we want to be in a position to give you that. And we'll try as hard as we can to do that.
There was activity in November. How come we're now hearing about it?
Well, the level of activity that you had then, I mean, it is a decision locally, but it didn't require the public to know that, because the kind of activity that I say you had in November, SUFRE goes through that from time to time. And you really only want to alert people when something is happening. I mean, there were moments when it went slightly above that, but on the overall trend, in terms of the current period, it was really still within what we expect. And in terms of alerting the public, you know, the NEMO has to determine. I think at that stage of the game, what needed to happen was for NEMO and the authorities locally to put their things in place, which is why we had to early, so that they could start preparing for the stage that we probably are at now, where we have to ramp up a little bit more.
Professor Robinson said there has been ongoing activity at La SUFRE, but on the 11th of November, it peaked, and last weekend, a NASA satellite picked up a hotspot in the volcano's crater. As it currently stands, the La SUFRE volcano is teeming, and persons living in close proximity are expected to see plumes and may experience some other activities. However, persons are encouraged to be on the alert, as Professor Robinson said the country needs to be prepared for rocky months ahead.
There's water beneath the ground, and that water is basically boiling to steam, and that steam is flashing off, and you're going to see it. It's going to be constantly up in the air for a little while. And I suspect anybody around the volcano, after a while, on a clear day, you would see it. And that's what
they may also get these sulfur smells coming, you know, based on the wind directions.
Yeah, it will be stronger than normal. The sulfur will get out much more than normal. Yeah.
And certainly with the ongoing seismicity, some of the events may at points in time be felt, depending on how close you are to the volcano. Yeah, you may get an occasional felt event, especially sensitive people.
Prime Minister, I think St. Vincent dodged COVID, but I'm not sure he dodged the volcano, unfortunately.
Well, you know, I will tell you this, Richie. You know, we are a resilient people.
Well, I know that.
And the leadership of the country, I'm not a lamentations man. Morning by morning, new mercies we see. All that we need, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness. Amen. And we have a patience and a calm.
Meanwhile, the volcano alert level in SVG has been raised to orange. That's from Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves at a follow-up briefing after today's virtual news conference with the team at the UWI Seismic Research Unit. He said that persons living in areas from Georgetown to Oya and from Bilal North should be on alert for evacuation at short notice if information is received that an eruption is imminent.
With this increase in activity, we have moved the alert level to orange. When there's no activity, it's situation of green. When there's a little restlessness, you carry it to yellow. But now that there is an effusive oozing eruption taking place, we have to take the alert level up to orange. This means that there is a higher elevated activity of heat and gas called fumarolic activity at the volcano, and with a strong sulfur smell. All the residents in in the areas, in the communities between Fancy to Georgetown and from North Leeward and the North Leeward area from Belial upwards, you have to be on alert, especially. And at relatively short notice, you may get an order to evacuate if in fact we have the scientific information that an explosive eruption will be occurring, or at least the likelihood of it.
PM Gonzalez said that the people of this country are resilient, and he is confident that whatever happens, we will be able to cope.
For all the blessings he has given to us amidst all the vicissitudes of life. This is not a time for lamentations. This is a time for us to draw on our inner strength and our resilience and help one another. It has been a challenging year. As Professor Robertson said, we have been able to deal with COVID well. We have this volcano is there, and that also we will, with God's blessings and His protection, and with all of us working together, I'm absolutely sure that we will meet this challenge successfully. Let's hope for the best.
In other news, 4 more COVID-19 cases. All non-nationals have been confirmed in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment said the cases were confirmed on Monday, December 28, 2020. 2 of these cases are adults who arrived from the United Kingdom on December 21st with negative PCR test results, tested negative on entry and positive on day 5. 1 other person who arrived from the USA on December 11, 2020, tested positive after being in close contact with someone who was COVID-19 positive. The 4th case arrived from the USA on December 19th with a negative PCR result, tested negative on entry and on day 5, but had a positive test on day 9. All 4 persons are non-Vincentians who will be isolated until they are cleared by 2 negative tests. Contact tracing and testing have also commenced. Meanwhile, the ministry said the adult who was admitted to the Argyle Isolation Facility on December 24, 2020 is stable. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has now recorded a total of 113 COVID-19 cases, 89 of which have recovered. There are at present 24 active COVID-19 cases, all from countries categorized as high risk. The Health Services Subcommittee said it is appreciative of the tremendous support of the public who have been reporting suspected quarantine breakers, a sense of community spirit which the committee said serves to protect all persons in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. There has been an amendment to income tax legislation in SVG for companies to ensure that certain taxpayers are assessed on a territorial basis and connected matters. The bill, which was tabled by Minister of Finance Camilla Gonzalez and was taken through all 3 stages at yesterday's sitting of Parliament, seeks to establish a system of taxation on income of specified companies, directly or indirectly, only in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
That companies specified to fall within the scope of territorial taxation are companies within the meaning of the Companies Act, an external company registered under the Companies Act, and a business company within the meaning of the Business Companies Amendment and Consolidation Act. These companies, together with trusts registered under the Trust Act, would no longer be taxed on their worldwide income, but only on income accrued directly or indirectly from Vincentian sources.
Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said that income accrued to any business on a ship can no longer be deemed to be wholly accrued from a source in SVG.
Deems income in respect of any business carried out by a company resident in St. Vincent and the Grenadines as owner or charter of a ship or aircraft engaged in international traffic to be income that accrues in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
We apologize for the insert. That was actually the Minister of Finance, Camilo Gonsalves. There will be an exemption of international companies from payment of income tax, and there will be a deduction of tax for payments from non-residents. The Finance Minister added that changes will also be made to brands and intellectual property.
4A3 inserts a new paragraph into Section 10. The effect of this insertion is to deem all types of marketing and branding rights as income that accrues to a registered company or registered trust from a source situated in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The effect of this amendment is to make all such income accessible income, whether it is earned or received from a source in or outside of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Specifically, the new paragraph covers trademarks, service marks, branding rights, image rights, and copyrighted software. This is necessary to comply with the European Union's Code of Conduct for Business Taxation.
The people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines have to be grateful to God for his protection during the many challenges faced in 2020, which has been overshadowed by COVID-19. So said Reverend Adolph Davis, Superintendent Minister of the Kingston Chateaubriand Methodist Circuit, who noted among the challenges a drought, the presence of Sahara dust, dengue fever, and most prevalent, the COVID-19 virus. Reflecting on the year, Reverend Davis said that while the administrators did their part, God has been favorable to SVG.
I have always held the view very strongly so that whatever our administrators have done would mean little or nothing were it not for the grace of God. And my explanation of that is this. Start back from when we had case number 2, a lady that went about with the virus and over 100 and I think 60-something persons, if I remember the number correctly. Yes. They contact traced. And you tell me 160-something people were exposed to coronavirus through this lady, and not one of them got the virus. Tell me that's not only God. When we send cases to CARFOR in Trinidad to be tested, we send 10, we send 15, we send 20, however many cases we send. None of us, regardless of how well we managed, none of us ultimately had control over if one came back positive or all 15, 20 or 30 came back positive. By the grace of God, we saw a whole month and we just kept coming back negative, negative, negative.
Reverend Davis said that there are many people who do not acknowledge what is expected of them at Christmas, but God's grace has kept us.
Yet you have stories where after the 5-day, people are having parties at the house, etc. Yet, with all that irresponsible behavior, we still come back with no significant story of local transmission or community spread. Tell me that's not the grace of God. So that while we commend our the CMO and others who have been involved in the management, we can honestly say that our testimony in St. Vincent regarding coronavirus is really evidence of the grace of God. So if we in looking back at 2020 with all the challenges that we have faced, recognize that in an inexplicable way, God has just been graceful, great, merciful to us. You know, we don't know if one songwriter says, I don't know why Jesus loved me, but oh, I'm glad he did. I can't give an explanation as to why God decided to favor St. Vincent in the way he did. But I know we can say we really have been blessed.
As the year comes to a close and 2021 draws closer, Reverend Davis said there needs to be more appreciation for life and for people to focus on God to see them through another year.
Us to appreciate that really in our nation we need desperately to be more God focused. You look even at the back end of the year, the prisoner who got away, and yes, we caught him in in a short time, But again, two high-profile prisoners get away. That could have gone so bad in so many ways. But again, thanks be to God.
A psychologist and CEO of the Value Experience is urging persons to use the lessons learned this year and apply this to their lives to make changes for the new year. Speaking on her Value Experience page, Dr. Joselle Miller said the best lessons are learned through the hardest times and situations.
And again, as we wrap up this year, I want to encourage every person, take the time to pull out the lessons learned, pull out the nuggets that you can take from this year and see how best you can apply it to your life, apply it to create some change going into a new year. Because the worst thing we can do for ourselves is take the baggage and the misfortune and all of the things, the negative things of this year, and roll it over into 2021.
Dr. Miller said persons should examine themselves thoroughly and think of reasons why they have failed and appreciate the lessons identified.
So, appreciate the lessons, take the time, go through each and every occurrence in your life, whatever it may have been, and pull from that. How have you grown? What has been the effect of this particular thing on you as an individual? And if it is that you have not benefited, or you feel you have not benefited, you have not grown in any way, you have to ask yourself why. Because there is a lesson to be learned in every single interaction, every experience. There is a lesson there, okay?
An environmental health officer has appealed to the operators of restaurants across St. Vincent and the Grenadines not to buy food and meat from farmers without seeing the appropriate documents. The district environmental health officer for East Kingston, Ralph Williams, was speaking on the radio yesterday, where he noted that the problem of predial larceny in SVG is on the rise and business places should work together to help identify the culprits.
There is no document that do not buy the meat. Persons who may, like probably the vendors, like there's some mobile vendors and itinerary vendors who may be cooking and they may look to buy meat. And during the training, because we usually have food handlers training, and we speak to the food handlers, we said that you must purchase your byproducts from reputable source. Purchase it from reputable source. So these persons who are dealing with food, they know that they're supposed to be purchasing from persons with proper documentation, so that you avoid the selling. And they know that. That's why some have, sorry to say, but these people know it. That's why the meat end up going down to the Grenadines and so forth.
Williams also expressed concerns about the bottle of local juices that are being sold on the streets in Kingstown. He pointed to some of the things that persons should look for before buying these juices.
So ideally, you're supposed to be looking at the label, so you could see the expiry date, you could see the content, the value and so forth in it. Apart from that, you want something that is cold. Right. You know, if possible with ice in it. You look for it. If it's cold, you look at make sure that the seal is not broken. Make sure the seal is not broken. Okay? So these are the things that you could look for. Basically, the seal is not broken. It is cold. You look at the person who are selling it to. The way they are attire, as you say, carry themselves, and you look at the container, the ice box or whatever. You look at it and see if it's clean. If it's clean, then you make decision and what you see.
22 female farmers across 20 farming communities in St. Vincent and the Grenadines today receive a supply of agricultural tools and equipment from the Ministry of National Mobilization. The supplies, valued at $42,000 was provided through a grant from UN Women through its initiative enabling of gender responsive disaster recovery environment resilience in the Caribbean to support all small farmers and fisherfolk across the nation. Speaking at the handing over ceremony, Minister of National Mobilization Orlando Brewster identified the 6 constituencies from the recipients were drawn, noting their hard work.
Across 9 countries, including Antigua and Barbuda, Belize, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, Jamaica, Suriname, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. What you're receiving here was made possible through a grant which was provided to support all small farmers and fisher folks across this nation. And we know that we are living in an era where we are plagued with COVID-19. And whatever we can do to enhance or uplift our women who are in farming and fishing, we are happy to partner with the UN Women and Engender.
Brewster also pointed out the different items that the female farmers received.
My memory serves me right, close to 12,000 EC dollars. So they are not cheap, and I am urging you at this point to make use of them, but also to take care of them. Now, the items you will be receiving include pesticides and fertilizers, spray cans, protective gears, including gloves, respirators like jackets, seeds, fishing gears, ice box, small farming equipment, and a few more items.
The Gender Affairs Minister said this activity is setting a platform for the development and implementation of a Women in Agriculture program within the Gender Affairs Division.
Now, we will have to partner with the cooperatives and community development within my ministry and also the Ministry of Agriculture in order to keep this program running. Now, I am expecting from you that you will get higher yields in your fruits and in your fish. So when you see Minister Brewster passing by, don't forget to throw in 2 fruits in a bag or 2 vegetables and a couple of fish. As a minister, I have a little token for you. I will be appreciated also.
The Roads, Buildings and General Services Authority, BRAXA, has completed the reconstruction of a concrete roadway in Monbentic, Georgetown. BRAXA said in a news release that the project involved the repair of 389 feet of road, the construction of a wall 82 feet long, and provision of drain. The project cost $63,000 and was done over a period of 7 weeks.